Imagine you're on the bridge of a ship the size of a skyscraper. 5,000 sailors below you, fighter jets on the deck, nuclear reactors humming in the hull. The most expensive warship ever built by human hands. $13.3 billion of American steel and pride. And somewhere 200 miles away, a guy in a warehouse just pressed send on his laptop. He didn't launch a missile. He didn't scramble a fighter jet. He bought 500 drones. The kind of thing that costs less than a used Honda Civic, loaded them with explosives, and pointed them at you. That's it. That's the whole plan. And here's what keeps the admirals awake at night. It might work. Let's do the math. Because the math is ugly, and nobody in Washington wants to say it out loud. One Ford-class aircraft carrier, $13.3 billion. 500 Iranian-style Shade drones at $30,000 each, $15 million. $15 million versus $13 billion. That's not a fair fight. That's not even a fight. That's an execution. The ratio is roughly 885 to 1 in favor of the guy with the laptop. But it gets worse. Every time your ship shoots down one of those drones, you're firing an interceptor missile. That costs anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million per shot. To kill a $30,000 drone. The Houthis, and let's be clear, these are guys in sandals running missiles out of Yemen, forced the U.S. Navy into that exact exchange. For over a year in the Red Sea, near daily intercepts. The Navy itself called it the most sustained combat since World War II. The USS Eisenhower spent months inside that threat ring. When it finally left, analysts started talking about a carrier gap, a hole in the coverage. An acknowledgement, quiet but real, that keeping a 100,000-ton capital ship inside a missile engagement zone is a political and military risk that nobody wants to own. Think about what that means. The most powerful navy in history was being cautious about a country with a GDP smaller than Kansas. Now scale that up to Russia or China. Russia has the Zircon, hypersonic cruise missile, Mach 8 to Mach 9. At close range, you get maybe 2 to 3 minutes of warning. 2 minutes to detect, track, calculate, fire, and hope your interceptor hits something that's moving at 11,000 kilometers an hour and actively maneuvering. China has the DF-27, hypersonic glide vehicle. It flew 2,000 kilometers in 12 minutes during a recent test. 12 minutes from launch to impact across the entire width of a sea. And here's the part that doesn't get discussed on cable news. These things fly in a gap. Too low for traditional ballistic missile defense. Too fast and too maneuverable for conventional air defense. They were designed, specifically, to thread the needle between what Aegis can handle and what it can't. The Missile Defense Agency's own director testified before Congress. Carriers are, in his words, at risk. Not potentially at risk. Not theoretically at risk. At risk. Now today. A retired Navy captain named Jerry Hendricks put it more plainly. Carriers have become so expensive, so loaded with crew, so symbolically important, that the Navy as an institution could not stand losing one. So we don't risk them the way they were designed to be risked. You built a weapon too valuable to use. That's not a deterrent. That's a hostage. The Red Sea showed the world something it won't forget. A ragtag militia armed with Iranian technology essentially closed a major global shipping lane. Not by winning a battle, by making the risk calculation unacceptable for everyone else. Container shipping through the Red Sea dropped 90%. 90 major corporations rerouted around the entire continent of Africa. Adding 11,000 miles, $1 million in fuel per voyage, rather than sail through a zone where some guy might press send on his laptop. War risk insurance premiums spiked from under 0.5% to 1 or 2% of a vessel's value overnight. Underwriters started reassessing risk daily instead of weekly. Because the math changed. Now imagine that scenario, not in the Red Sea with the Houthis, but in the Taiwan Strait with the People's Liberation Army. Imagine the moment the world gets confirmation that a U.S. carrier has been hit. Or worse, within 6 hours, every ship owner with exposure in that theater is telling their captains to hold position. War risk premiums for the entire Western Pacific reprice instantly. Freight indices start moving. Global supply chains, already fragile, seize up. And then comes the question that no American president wants to face in front of a camera. What do we do now? Here's the thing nobody wants to say. The carrier wasn't just a ship. It was a signal. It said, we can go anywhere and nobody can stop us. It was the physical embodiment of American power projection for 80 years. And the adversaries, Russia, China, Iran, didn't try to match it. They didn't build their own carriers. They built the answer to the carrier, cheap, numerous, fast, and expendable. Missiles that cost $20,000 to kill a billion-dollar interceptor. Drones that swarm faster than magazines can empty. They read the same math we just did. And they built accordingly. A piece in the U.S. Naval Institute's own journal set it straight. The carrier-centric defensive model no longer is sound. That's not an outside critic. That's the Navy's own professional publication. The United States hasn't lost a carrier since World War II. That's not because it can't happen. It's because we haven't fought anyone who could make it happen. That era may be ending. 5,000 sailors, 1 laptop, $15 million. That's the math. And the math doesn't care about pride.